on this video, it means that you are interested in finding out everything there is about haute couture, which makes me very happy because this is my favorite area in fashion. Throughout this video, I will present to you to the best of my abilities and my knowledge, and also the research that I've made, all of the components that make haute couture happen. So we will talk first of all about the meaning of it, we will talk about the founder of haute couture and a bit of history of it, where it came from, who initiated the whole idea of haute couture. Then we will talk about the location where all the shows are taking place and why. Also the requirements for the fashion house to be able to present haute couture collection. We will look at the clientele, and also in a summary we will look at today and the future of haute couture and what it might bring to us, or will it die? Hopefully not. So let's start this video strong with the meaning. So translated literally, couture means dressmaking in French and haute means high, so it's a high dressmaking. Haute couture can be explained as the creation of exclusive custom-fitted high-end fashion design. Unlike the ready-to-wear garments that you can just get in store, couture pieces are created for individuals to order. Made from the finest materials, these items are tailored precisely to body measurements, and the process involves exceptional attention to detail. These garments are created as one-off pieces for specific clients who order them. So where did the extraordinary way of making clothes came from? Haute couture can be referenced back as early as the 17th century. Back then, the industry was legally protected through guild statutes that required strict adherence to quality and quantity. Women dressmakers, known as couturières, got their guild privileges in 1675. Their guild statutes helped acquire the rights to make clothing for women and children, while male tailors retained the right to make clothing for men and boys over the age of 8. Within this new empire, the coutureur's job ranged from simple mending to modes, which were fashions. They performed various alterations and also made fine dresses of luxurious fabric for members of the royal family and aristocracy. Seamstresses, meanwhile, were only a part of this complex process and network. They were included in domestic manufacture, imported products, and worked alongside guilds such as lace makers, ribbon makers, fashion merchants, and embroiderers. Seamstresses did not operate public shops, unlike tailors, but instead relied on word of mouth and connections to procure high-end clientele. This system worked well through many years. However, the 18th century France witnessed a dramatic rise in clothing consumption, a so-called clothing revolution that occurred between 1700s and 1789. After arriving in France from Austria, Marie Antoinette was introduced to Rose Berton in the summer of 1774, who was a well-known and successful couturier at that time. Marie Antoinette commissioned Berton to make her robes for the coronation of the Louis XVI, which were reportedly so heavy that they had to be carried from Paris on a stretcher. She didn't know it yet, but Rose Berton, the new French fashion designer to Queen Marie Antoinette, was to be credited for bringing fashion and haute couture to French culture. Marie Antoinette was so impressed by her new fashion merchant that she abolished the historic custom of dressing in public in a formal ceremony dress, choosing instead to be dressed in private by Berton. Twice a week, Berton would present her newest collections and creations to the Queen and spend hours and hours discussing them and picking the best designs. The Queen loved her wardrobe and was passionate about every detail, and Berton became her confidant and friend. Her position as the designer to the Queen also secured the role of the leading fashion designer of the French aristocracy, and as French fashion was the leader in Europe, the central figure of European fashion. Called the Minister of Fashion by her haters, Berton was the brains behind almost every new dress commissioned by the Queen. Dresses and hair became Marie Antoinette's personal vehicles of expression, and Berton clothed the queen from 1770 until her deposition in 1792. Berton became a powerful figure at court, and she witnessed, as sometimes affected, profound changes in French society. Her large, ostentatious gowns ensured that the wearer occupied at least 3 times as much space as their male counterpart, thus making the woman a more imposing presence. Her creations also established France as the center of the fashion industry, and from then on, dresses made in Paris were sent to London, Venice, Vienna, St. Petersburg, and Constantinople. This original Parisian elegance established the worldwide reputation of French couture. There were many visitors in Paris who were buying clothing there, which was then copied by their local dressmakers. Stylish women also ordered dresses in the latest Parisian fashion to serve as models. Soon as the railroads and steamships made European travel easier, it was increasingly common for wealthy women to travel to Paris to shop for clothing and accessories. French fitters and dressmakers were commonly thought to be the best in Europe, and real Parisian garments were considered better than local imitations. Fast forward a few years later, during the 19th century, Englishman Charles Frederick Worth became considered as the father of haute couture, as he founded the first genuine haute couture house in 1858 at the number 7 Rue de la Paix in Paris. The couturier became the first to recognize and implement a business model based around a single collection. He staged salon shows dedicated to a sole collection. These salon presentations included a series of garments and designs unique to one collection only. The main goal of these salon shows was not that much for art purpose, but mainly to find clients and sell the collection. In fact, Worth was the first designer to invite customers to his atelier, starting this new tradition. Showing his designs live on models at the house of Worth was a first in fashion. His clients made their selections and had the garments tailored according to their measurements. Up to this day, you can find designs made to order in couture salons. The clients are able to choose things such as the weight of the yarns used in the garments according to where they live, which, as you can probably guess, is not possible in any other ready-to-wear collection in fashion, where you just pick the clothes ready as you see them in stores. Later on, Charles Frederick Worth had an idea of organizing fashion events twice a year. During this time, all of his clients could be in town at the exact same time, so he could show them different collections. This laid the foundation of Fashion Week. In this way, Worth invented the way the industry runs today and how fashion designers work and build their collections. Since then, France has evolved into a fashion powerhouse, with its capital, Paris, reigning as a global fashion icon. Following Charles Frederick Worth's couture era in Paris, 20th century saw the opening of the prestigious, luxurious fashion houses in the fashion capital. These included Christian Dior, Chanel, Balenciaga, Schiaparelli, Saint Laurent, and Givenchy. They were among the first couture houses to emerge in the vibrant Parisian fashion scene. Also, they carried Charles Frederick Worth's idea of couture, fashion shows, and the structure of fashion that we know today. This is why couture shows always take place in Paris, because it is the birthplace and the heart of haute couture. Since Charles Worth's idea, twice a year in Paris, fashion has its most exclusive, expensive, luxurious, extraordinary moment, Haute Couture Paris Fashion Week. So can every fashion house present haute couture collections? No. Haute couture is a much misused phrase that actually has very specific rules for qualification. Every fashion house must meet very specific requirements to label its collection as haute couture. The term haute couture is legally protected, and the fashion houses that are a part of this elite group must adhere to strict rules, which are decided by the Fédération de la Haute Couture et de la Mode, which is actually a governing body for the French fashion industry. subsidiary of that governing body, we have Chambre Syndicale de la Haute Couture, who oversees applications to become an haute couture house. Appointments are by invite only, and the applicants must demonstrate that they have the skill and craftsmanship to compete on the fashion most elite stage. So yep, you can't wake up just one day and decide to become an haute couture fashion brand. It doesn't matter how amazing your dresses or how luxurious your fabrics are, there are very strict rules to becoming a part of this elite group of couturiers. So number one requirement for a house to present haute couture collections is having an atelier in Paris that employs at least 15 full-time staff and 20 full-time technical workers. The second requirement is making custom garments for private clients with one or more fittings, so the design is made to order. And the third rule is haute couture houses must present a collection of at least 25 original designs twice a year during the Paris Couture Week, which is held in January and July. Each season, Chambre Syndicale de la Haute Couture invite guest members. A fashion house is eligible to become a member if they receive an invitation 4 times in a row. Approved brands then can be supported in strategic communication, marketing, economic, technological, cultural, and even political possibilities. And while these strict criteria may in other settings serve to stifle creativity, when it comes to haute couture, they instead aim to preserve and protect the traditional craftsmanship, skill, and innovation, which makes the highest echelons of fashion so aspirational. The petit mots who are responsible for executing couture looks, for example, typically train for a minimum of 10 years before becoming accepted to a couture atelier, while a single piece often represents hundreds of hours of work. This level of quality and care would be practically impossible at any other level of the fashion system. However, in recognition of this extraordinary design talent, does not hail from Paris alone, the Chambre Syndicale also grants correspondent membership to houses based outside of the city of Paris. There are currently 7 correspondent members, which are Azzedine Alaïa, Elisab, Fendi, Giorgio Armani, Valentino, Versace, and Victor and Rolf. In addition to this, the Chambre Syndicale invites a number of guest members to show during Haute Couture Week in Paris each season. These members, which currently include Ralph and Rousseau, Guopé, and Iris van Herpen, among others, may only use the term couture to describe their collections, but then can graduate to full haute couture status after 2 years, which means after 4 consecutive seasons. Let's look at some of the examples of what a fashion show of haute couture collection could look like. So last Haute Couture Fashion Week took place in July. So let's look at some of the brands that were showing in there. And I will show you my 3 favorite collections, just so you can have an idea of how crazy amount of work goes into them. I will be now showing you a little recap of the most recent Haute Couture Fall-Winter 2024 to 2025 Fashion Week that took place just in July last month. So first up, we have Thom Browne, who was showing in his collection the beauty of the hand rather than a machine. Muslin, the plain cotton fabric, was the subject of Thom Browne's couture collection. So he based the whole collection around one kind of material, and all the looks in the collection were including muslin. He used 6 different weights of muslin for the show, choosing the right one for different techniques. I think this show was really beautiful and very creative. Next, we have Schiaparelli, the brand that flourished in the 1920s and 1930s. The show was referencing actually the 1950s. The designer, Daniel Roseberry, wanted to show the elasticity of the brand and also the range of what he thinks he can do and the ateliers can do. Of course, Chanel was also presenting with the work of Fashion Creation Studio, as the current creative director was in the process of exiting the house. The collection consisted of pretty pieces that will connect with clients of the house, with bows as recurring motif and also the classic Chanel skirts, tweeds, and also the feathers. Then, on the eve of the Paris Olympics, Dior was presenting their collection with the idea of recasting sportswear through a couture lens. Creative director Maria Grazia Chiuri said, "Wellness, comfort, and beauty. I think these three elements are very important in our work. But sometimes fashion is more obsessed with the silhouette or the construction than the material. I want to do clothes where the body stays well and can move freely." I think these words sum up this collection pretty accurately. Now, of course, there were more other shows that were presented during the Fashion Week, but I cannot include all of them in this video, so I will now show you my top 3 shows of the season. So one of them must be Robert Woon and his breathtaking work. The designer celebrated the 10-year anniversary of his label with the show called Time. He wanted to translate the concept of the passing of time into actual clothing and envision the progression of seasons. In the collection's narration of the passing of time, the 4 final looks represented respectively the skin, flesh, bones, and soul in a sort of progressive stripping off both physical and spiritual. Another of my favorite show was Gaurav Gupta, who joined the Paris Couture schedule in January of last year. As inspiration, he looked at ancient Indian mantra, which he explained translates from Sanskrit as the journey from darkness to light. This idea was evident in his use of color, with a tight palette that ranges from black to a soft sandstone with hints of deep burgundy. He said that he wanted to make core pieces that are unique yet more wearable, and as quoted, he said, "I'm seeing the lifestyle of the client. Sometimes they need a gown or something very unique, but sometimes they need something else that they can dress up or dress down." I think this collection was very beautiful. And finally, we have Victor and Rolf, who like the idea of doing something absurd that makes no sense. On the one hand, the human body, on the other hand, the most abstract shapes. Couture as an exaggeration of abstract. They crafted garments based on geometric shapes, coming up with rectangular, triangular, or trapezoid volumes. Couture for us is a lab of experiments and inventions, said Victor and Rolf. They weren't keen to elaborate much on the why and what for or who's gonna wear it. They just praise abstraction, which gives freedom of interpretation. The viewer can let his mind wander, make free associations. We like that. We offer something that is a starting point for someone's own train of thought, they said. I think this collection was very fun, very creative, and I think it was one of my top 3. Now let's jump into some conclusions. How big of an industry actually haute couture is? Believe it or not, the customer base for couture clothing is vanishingly small. It has changed greatly since its inception. The modern customer hails from a 2,000 strong collection of largely Russian, Chinese, and Middle Eastern consumers, with mainly buying exquisite pieces as much for investment and collecting purposes as for their wearable value. Yet, while number of the Parisian couture houses might have fallen from over 100 in 1946 to just 16 today, for many brands is viewed as a long-term investment that boosts the image of a fashion label, demonstrates its financial musical, raises the profile and desirability of its ready-to-wear collections, and showcases what its designers are capable of when giving a free hand. As the Fédération de la Haute Couture et de la Mode told Vogue in 2019, haute couture is a spearhead in terms of creation, a fantastic laboratory of research, both in terms of craftsmanship and design innovation. Haute couture is a land of free expression for designers, as well as image builder for brands. Majority of some of the very first couture houses still exist today under the new leadership of modern designers. However, custom clothing is no longer their main source of income. Haute couture for these maisons today is more about the image of a brand and the value and the perception of it. So other luxury products such as shoes, bags, but also perfumes and licensing ventures earn greater returns for the company. Haute couture, in my opinion, are always the most beautiful shows of all, and those two haute couture fashion weeks are my very favorite each year, and I look forward to them so much. I think we are so lucky actually to be alive in the era when haute couture is still showing, it still lives, it didn't die, even if there are only 16 fashion houses participating in it. I would love to hear or read down below who are your favorite fashion couture houses, maisons, and which, in your opinion, are the greatest haute couture shows of all time. Please, let's have a discussion down below. I already showed you my favorite shows, and thank you so much for watching and participating in this haute couture little world that I think it's so beautiful and so important to present. Bye!